All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is your City Council update for the meetings that took place Wednesday, September 9th, 2009. We have a lot to get to today. As always, we'll keep this under 10 minutes. If you like it, spread around, subscribe. We're going to get the word out any way we can. Committee of the Whole, the principal discussion there was going to be on streetlight utility. And property tax levy. We had to set our preliminary property tax levy, and all that means is that we don't have a budget yet, but we're setting the absolute highest property tax levy. It was proposed to us that we set that levy approximately so that the city budget would be flat with last year. We actually changed that to a pretty substantial reduction last year, but not really. We carved the budget. The levy was going to be about $45.5 million. We took $1.2 million off because we anticipate moving $1.2 million of streetlight fees from the property tax rolls to a separate line item through RPU. We're going to create something called a streetlight utility. Most people, it's not going to significantly affect you. Instead of paying a tax, you're paying a fee, and unless you're Tim Pawlenty, there's not really any sort of a difference between the two. The question that I brought up, and I'm continuing to be very concerned about, is our current budget reserves are approximately 35% of our annual budget, and the problem with that is that we're getting pretty low in that area. And what happens is, as our budget continues to grow, if our reserves don't grow, we put our AAA bond rating at risk, and if we lost our bond rating, that would be an absolute catastrophe for everyone in Rochester. We'd be paying a lot more for a lot of different programs that we did. So I made administration very aware of my concerns. That's something we're going to continue to look at going forward. As I said, final decision with the levy is going to actually be about $44.3 million for the tax levy. Given the enormous cuts that we got from the state this year, I don't think the average homeowner is going to see a real huge increase in their property taxes. We'll see exactly where it lands, but things are good, and I think a lot of that, skipping to my next item, is we're able to do a lot with the budget because we've had a lot of labor groups step forward, work with the city, and essentially take a 12-day furlough for next year. And what that's going to allow us to do, even though they're getting their cost of living increases, the total compensation to them is going to be a little bit less than flat. As such, we're able to keep the budget relatively flat. We appreciate all those organized groups that have stepped up to the plate and worked with the city. There have been a couple that haven't, and I'm very disappointed in them. And as for those that don't have contracts for 2010, that includes fire and police. It's not my intention to have furloughs or do anything that takes officers off the street. At the same time, I hope that they will find ways to share in the sacrifice, realizing that this is a problem not brought on by the city and not brought on by what they did. This is strictly a Tim Pawlenty LGA cuts problem. Next item. We all survived Emailgate 2009. There was a high-level elected official who had a problem with certain people in the city using personal email addresses as opposed to the Rochester, Minnesota email addresses. Can't even set your own password in that. You have to have somebody set the password for you. There's all sorts of operational problems. It's an embarrassment that we have an email system like that. My thought is, if you're going to complain about me using my personal email address, offer me a reasonable solution first. And I thought that was, I'm glad that the city council properly decided to just blow off the request. Very, very critical issue if you're a taxi cab driver. The new guidelines say that you do not have to wear your hat. So if you see a taxi cab driver without a hat now, they are in fact no longer criminals. One of the things I pulled off the consent agenda and stopped was we're planning on putting a water tower up in the northwest, not too far from that traffic circle on the new 50th Avenue completed segment. And the problem is, when we initially voted on this at the time, what we weren't told is the fact that water usage has actually gone down in the city. There's not a development demand up there for it right now. We do have enough pressure for the hydrants and everything. So I saw this as being a $3 million piece of infrastructure that we just don't need right now. We tabled it. We did not stop it. We tabled it. So this should be coming up at the next meeting. Out of fairness, we'll have one of our RPU's water people come and give us their reasons why they feel it might be necessary. But I did point out, with everything else that's going on, wouldn't it be nice if we could actually lower or freeze the water charges for a few years? Next up, one of the big things I've been hopeful for a long time, cyclists. We got our cycling connection, the Diamond Spur from basically where the Douglas Trail ends right now down to Highway 14. That's going to eventually become bike path now, with bridges eventually on both ends of it. You're going to be able to get on a bike in downtown Rochester, essentially stay on trails, and get up to Red Wing pretty quickly. So that's great. It's it's an expensive project, but as I pointed out there, with parking spaces being $20,000 a space down there, you get a couple hundred people commuting by bicycle that wouldn't otherwise, and it's a wonderful opportunity to save a lot of money. It's an important part of a connection of a greater network, and I'm really proud that we stepped up to the plate and secured this. And there's also possibilities of using this for transit in the future. What was formerly referred to as shops in second, we did some platting arrangements with them. Basically, there's chances of some things going in there. There's a lot of concerns, not the least of which is, are you putting more sewage into already failing sewage lines in the Kutsky Park neighborhood? And particularly with all the infill type development that I see, I don't want to see a suburban style building where you just have buildings surrounded by enormous parking lots, and that's it. We need an urban style building. I'm going to continue to fight for the urban style building, and I think that Mr. Pence has shown indications in the past that this is something that's important to him as well. So I hope when they do come forward with a proposal, it's truly it's truly part of an urban environment and not just sprawled out parking lots around a big building. Next up, Furlough apartment expansion. That's Mac had us working. We worked hard to try and figure out how to keep this project moving, but I think that is going. Looks like a beautiful addition downtown. It's going to be 24 new apartments. Some issues with the parking, but we're hopefully working through that. He worked with the neighborhood. I've told developers many times, if you try and step on the neighborhoods, you're going to have a problem with me. If you work with the neighborhoods, give them a fair shake. I'm going to be your best friend up there, and I tried to stay true to that. And I think in this particular case, Mac did a wonderful job of working with the neighborhoods. The neighborhoods were there to support him as well. That's about it for this week. Like I said, there was a lot that happened this week. If you have questions, feel free to call me or email me. Of course, my email address is votewojak@gmail.com, the same one I've been using since I decided to get into politics. And other than that, I hope that everyone's enjoying their summer. I know I got a nice little backpacking trip out to Glacier National Park. So please keep in touch. If there's issues I need to know about, please let me know. And I will see you again for the next update in about 2 weeks.